Hello and welcome to the second part of section 3.2, solving systems by substitution and elimination. This is the second part of the video set, so this is going to go over elimination. Now, let me just say this is going to be a long video, so please stay with me. Make it through to the end, take notes, and complete the survey at the end of the video. So, solving systems by equations. So far, we've done graphing and substitution, so these notes describe another way to solve a system, which is by elimination. We use this method when both equations are written in standard form. Now remember, standard form is down there at the bottom, ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are numbers. A is greater than 0, so it's a positive number, and a, b, and c are not fractions or decimals. Okay, so this means that y is not by itself in this case. Okay, solving a system of equations by elimination. Step 1, we line up the equations, so put the x's above the x's and y's above the y's and numbers above numbers. Step 2, determine which variable to eliminate. Look for variables that have the same coefficient. Step 3, solve. So you solve for the variable that you chose. And step 4, plug that number back in to find the other variable. Substitute the value of the variable into the equation. Okay, most important, remember, do not forget to write your answer as an ordered pair or a coordinate, x and then y, or write in alphabetical order. So example number 1, line up the equation like we already have here, x's above x's, y's above y's, and numbers above numbers. Determine the variable to eliminate. So we want to look and see which one has the same coefficient, except for one is positive and one is negative. In this case, we have 5y and negative 5y. Okay, the goal of this is, remember, when we add two things that are opposite, so 5y plus negative 5y gives me 0, so I'm just going to go ahead and cross those out. Now I'm going to solve for the other variable, so I'm left with my x's, so 5x minus 8x gives me negative 3x, and then we do 20 minus 29, which gives me negative 9. So then I just solve for x, so I divide by negative 3, and I get x equals 3. Our last step is I'm going to take this x equals 3 and plug it back into one of these. I'm just going to plug in the top one since 5 times 3 is smaller than negative 8 times 3. So 5 times 3 plus 5y equals 20. Okay, so 5 times 3, 15, plus 5y equals 20. Subtract 15, so I get 5y equals 5, divide by 5, and I get y equals 1. So my final answer, right over here to the side since we're running out of room, I get 3, 1, written as an ordered pair. Simple enough. Let's try another example. Example number 2, line up the equation, so this one's already lined up for us. Determine the variable to eliminate. Which variable has the same coefficient? Now here's one issue that we run into. They both have the same coefficient, but they're also both negative. So the last equation, the last example that we did, we simply added them together. This one, let's subtract. Okay? Remember when we subtract a negative, it changes the sign of this one. So when we subtract a negative, it's like we were adding a positive. So we're going to eliminate these two. So negative x minus negative x gives me just 0. So then we go negative 5y minus 9y, which gives me negative 14y, equals 2 minus 2, which is 0. So I'm going to solve for y. I'm going to divide by negative 14. I get y equals 0. Now y equals 0 is always a nice number to get. I'm going to take that and I'm just going to plug it back into my top equation here. Like I said before, it doesn't really matter. That's just what I like using the first equation sometimes. So I plug that in. So I get negative x minus 5. Every time I see a y, I'm going to plug in a 0 equals 2. Negative 5 times 0 is just 0. So I get negative x equals 2. Divide by negative 1. I get x equals negative 2. So then my final step is to write it as an ordered pair. Negative 2, 0. X then y. So now, what if I have a situation where I do not have two variables that have the same coefficient? So that's why I'm going to use solving systems of equations using multiplication. So far we've talked about graphing, substitution, and elimination. These notes will take elimination one step further to use multiplication. So what happens when coefficients are the same? So for in this case, 2x plus 2y equals 6, and 3x minus y equals 5. Okay, so I'm going to solve a system equation by elimination using multiplication. So step one, we're going to line up the equation just like before. X is above x's, y is above y's, numbers above numbers. Step two, we're going to determine which variable to eliminate. Look for variables that have the same coefficient. If that doesn't happen, we're going to multiply the equations and solve. So we're going to solve for one of our variables, whichever one we don't eliminate. Step four, we plug our number we get back into the equation to find the other variable. And that's it. Most important, remember to write our answer as a coordinate x, y. So example one, we have 2x plus 2y equals 6 and 3x minus y equals 5. So step one, line up the equation, which they already are, which is awesome. Step two, we're going to choose a variable, trying to make things easy on yourself. So if you have a way to multiply one of them by just one number and get two numbers that have the same coefficient, then we're good. So choice one, we can eliminate the x's, or choice two, we can eliminate the y's. Let's look at both of these separately. So eliminating the y's, which in my opinion is the easier option. So eliminating the y's, multiply the equations to solve. What do I need to multiply the equations by to get the numbers to be the same? Remember, we want to get the least common multiple. So I'm going to multiply the top by 1, so I'm not really going to do anything to the top. Multiply the bottom by 2. This is going to give us a coefficient of -2 on the y, which makes it easy. So now it's just like the other problems before. I'm just going to add them. This gets rid of my two y's. I get 8x equals 16. Then next thing we do, we divide, and we get x equals 2. Then I'm just going to take that 2. I'm going to plug it back into the other equation, or into an equation. It does not matter which one. Any of these four equations on this page will give us the correct answer. So we're going to take it. We can plug it in the first one or the second one. Like I said, it really doesn't matter. In the first one, if we plug it in the first equation, plug x equals 2 into there, so we get 2 times 2 plus 2y equals 6. 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 2y equals 6. Subtract 4 from both sides. 2y equals 2. Then divide by 2. We get y equals 1. Now you could do this and you get an ordered pair of 2, 1. Now you could do the same thing. You could do the same thing in the second equation. 3x minus 1y equals 5. Plug in 2 for x. 3 times 2 minus 1y equals 5. 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract 6 from both sides. We get -1y equals -1. -1 divided by -1 is 1. So we get, yet again, 2, 1. Okay, let's look at one more example. X plus 4y equals 7 and 4x minus 3y equals 9. So I'm going to take both of these. I'm going to figure out step one. So step one, I'm going to line up the equations. Step two, choose a variable to make things easy on yourself. So we have two options: eliminate the x and eliminating the y's. In my opinion, it's easiest in this case to eliminate the x. So eliminating the x's. I'm going to multiply the equations to solve. What do you need to multiply the equations by to get the numbers to be the same? Remember, the least common multiple. So I'm going to multiply the top by 4 to get my 4 is on top, my 4 on the x, my 4 on the x on the bottom and on the top. So it gives me 4x plus 16y equals 28, and 4x minus 3y equals 9. Okay, so from here, since they have the same sign, I'm going to subtract and eliminate. So I get 16y minus -3. Remember, we subtracted negatives like adding, so we get 19y equals 19. Next step, we divide by 19, we get y equals 1. Now remember, we have to plug it back into one of our equations. We have two choices we can do in the first or the second. It does not matter. Okay, it does not matter. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to test both. Plug into the first equation. 4x plus 4y equals 7. Plug it in. X plus 4 times 1 equals 7. 4 times 1 is 4. All I have to do is subtract 4 and I get x equals 3. Remember writing the ordered pair, 3, 1. And really, It doesn't matter. I'm just gonna skip doing the other one because I think that's enough. In conclusion, you eliminate the variables that have similar coefficients. If they don't have similar coefficients, then multiply. Make sure you add or subtract to eliminate. Eliminate means to get rid of, and you want that part to equal 0. Make sure you took notes as you went. Take the survey, bring your questions to class tomorrow, and know how to write an equation and solve. Here are your survey questions. Have a good rest of your night.